know if it's possible. Welcome, everyone. It is 3 o'clock. We are here to talk about belonging. I am inviting you in the first, say, 30 seconds, 1 minute, use your QR scanner and do a word or phrase that best describes how you're currently feeling about diversity, equity, and inclusion at your organization, or you can use menti.com and this code. And it is anonymous, and it will build a word cloud, and then we'll share with you the pulse of the room.
Take your mics off.
Oh, I can take mine.
Yeah. All right. Just do it at the end. Okay. All right. All right. Let's go ahead and get started here. So, welcome to Beyond Inclusion. As you can see, well, I was going to say, as you can see from all the words, we're going to show the word cloud at the end now, just due to technical things going on, and we'll go over that. But just to introduce myself, I'm Ellie Fanning. I'm the Director of Marketing and Business Development for Lullabot, and this is Nikki Flores, who is one of Lullabot's technical PMs. Let's see, we're both part of the, we have an inclusion and equity working group at Lullabot that we participate in. So this obviously is is a topic that's near and dear to both of our hearts. And you want to say some stuff too?
Yeah, certainly. I would like to acknowledge that both of us are speaking today from the perspective of middle-aged women. I'm going to guess about you. We are both highly educated. We have college degrees. We both live in North America and have lived here all of our lives. I am mid-career, and you are too. And I've been at Lullabot for 4 years, and Ellie has been at 9 years, or 6 years.
6 years.
And so we both have a certain level of perspective, which may or may not overlap with your own perspective or the perspectives of other people at our employee-owned company. I'd also like to recognize, for those listening in on audio, I am wearing a tie-dyed t-shirt, blue pants. Ellie is wearing a gray blazer and a patterned shirt, and we are standing on land that was taken from Native Americans, stolen, and we are based in Pittsburgh at the Lawrence Convention Center. And I'd also like each of us to just, take a moment. We're here to discuss something that is not something that I would think you would hear at a Drupal conference. So I'm really glad that there's a track, interest, and ideas about this. And there's a wayfinding. We'll be doing about 10 slides plus some introductions. And then we'll have time. We're asking if you can hold your questions. We'll have a fair amount of time at the end. Sounds good? Thumbs up? All right.
All right. So just quickly about Lullabot. We were one of the first Drupal agencies to exist. We do, obviously, Drupal development. We do design and strategy as well. We are a 100% remote team. We've got over 60 employees scattered across the globe. And we specialize in creating large-scale digital publishing systems, especially multi-site systems. And these are just some of our clients. So in 2021, we became an ESOP. An ESOP, that stands for Employee Stock Ownership Plan. It basically means that every employee in the company has true ownership, which in a sense is true equity in the company. So what were we going to say about that? So we became the ESOP, which is actually, sorry, you wrote that.
No, so oftentimes we hear about equity with that graphic with the 3 baskets or buckets and somebody's standing on one, and like that is equity. I think for Ellie and I, we recognize that and also acknowledge that your share in the company and my share of the company, I'm much more willing to call Ellie out on anything that I see that may improve or help our company, because we both benefit from the bottom line. Likewise, if Ellie sees something about my work that could be improved even incrementally, even 1 day of worth of increment change, she's going to help me do that, because we're accountable to each other and to our shared bottom line and to our children and to our livelihood. So I think the idea of an equity relationship is what we're here to talk about. And then again, for a Forbes article that we found in 2022, in terms of the diversity, equity, inclusion aspect of it, 68% of business leaders recognize that a lack of diversity in the tech workforce, despite companies spending about $8 billion a year on DEI training. So I want you to look back in your memory or your understanding of where your current company is investing in diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice efforts. Consider a bigger spend, or consider some tangible outcomes that you can see in your day-to-day life. Whatever that effort is, there has to also be outcomes, deliverables.
Horizon's going.
Oh no. Oh no. There.
So the benefits of having an equitable work environment, it allows you to be agile, be culturally competent, be able to work with a variety of viewpoints, build a more thoughtful end product, and retain employees. This is, by the way, our current technical project management team.
And it's worth mentioning, we decided if we wanted to show what the technical project manager team looked like when I applied or when Ellie joined 6 years ago, but we thought, the thing is, when you looking at the staff when you're applying to jobs, like I looked at every single person on that staff list. And so if you don't think that representation matters, then you may not be the person who the representation mattering needs to matter to, if that makes sense.
Right.
Okay, so DEI encompasses so much. Most of you have known about the items on the left-hand column, which are race, color, religion, pregnancy, sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, and age and disability genetic information have been added from the list of things that cannot be discriminated against. Where's my notes? Oh yeah, that's the EOC, okay. But on the right-hand side, there are many alternate formats of inclusion. So these could be things like, do you have veterans on your staff? What is the political affiliation of the mix of people at your organization? What is the marital status? Like, are people making decisions on healthcare plans on a certain framework and have not thought about all the different ways that people are partnered in your country or your work? Work experience or style. We work all remote, so there's a preference to people who are able to self-organize and organize their own work at home, because we all are remote. Some people may prefer to work in an office, so we may be not setting people up for success if they're looking for an office. So we invest in people using their education funds to go to a co-working space if that's what works best for them. Educational level, like I mentioned, both of us have higher levels of education, but that may not be the case for your staff, your team, your allies, your partners, your customers. Family responsibilities. What types of support do you have hardwired into your policies to support people who have other responsibilities at home, which may not be the case with your leadership? So this is my questions to you, to think about diversity, equity, inclusion beyond what is on the left. Socioeconomic status. Not everybody knows the same things that you do, right? Not everybody knows the same skills or the same types of information that you may take for granted. Neurodivergent status. We had a great talk, and if you look at the videos, the first talk this morning was about neurodiversity here in Drupal, and then gender expression. Anybody have anything that is not covered on this list? Please.
In our case, geography, we've got one central office and a lot of people who are remote, and so the people who are in the central location, that can be a differentiator, and then other.
Yeah, so we have some agencies or organizations started with a main office, and then over COVID, like all of us have adapted, folks have either worked from home or have become remote or moved during the pandemic. And so now there may be structures in place that other, the folks who are remote, or they may be forgotten, or they might not have the right way to dial into Zoom meetings or whatever. So that's something for your organization to think about, who's local and who's not. Other ideas? Neurodivergent status covering mental health status. It's a question for your folks, and particularly the folks who are coming up with policies and insurance-related and medical and health-related items. Do they consider mental health to be important? If they do, then they'll prioritize that as being supported. If they don't think it's important, it won't be. And why is this important? So I do encourage you to take a look at mission, vision, and values on lullabot.com. Unfortunately, we're challenged and don't know how to show it on the screen, but take a look at lullabot.com. Want to talk about attracting high-quality candidates. Those of you in the room know Drupal is a skill that is in high demand, and you can choose where you want to go. And my sense is that the more discerning we are and the more outspoken we are about what we're looking for, it'll be easier for companies to adapt to that. Employee retention stats. So I learned that a replacement cost for an employee that walks out your door, let's say you hire your staff person, you've been through the interview process, you've trained them, now they have resigned, left, moved, terminated, that replacement cost can be as high as 50 to 60%. So if your employee makes, say, $60,000 a year, then it costs your organization, like Ellie and I's share price, it costs us an average of $30,000 to $45,000 just to replace that employee, and then another $54,000 to $120,000 in losses to the company. So this is bottom line. If you needed to make the case to your CEO, your CFO, your HR director, this is important for attracting your high quality candidates and keeping them, as well as your bottom line. I do want to share a quote from one of my former colleagues who passed away from COVID in the very beginning. He wants to be at and work with an organization where he can retire. I fully intend to retire at Lullabot. Okay, so we're going to go into the actual 10 tips that we had. And I want everybody to know in the room, Ellie and I are not speaking as experts. We're speaking to you from our experience implementing this at our organization. I've been with the company since 2019. We have a long way to go. We've had a lot of iterative processes. I encourage you to take this as a starting point and build on it at your own organization. You may be able to do certain things. You may not be able to do certain things. Take from the list, take notes, and implement at least one. Showing your people. So why is this important? It lets your job applicants, like I mentioned, I looked at every single person on this staff, your current employees, your leadership, your clients, your partners know who they are working with. So you are saying this is who you are, and showing your people helps everyone understand where you are sitting today. Now, the subtext of this, of course, is that if your leadership, your staff, your current setup of people does not match the American demographics or the demographics of the place where you are serving, there may be a mismatch. And I highly recommend you start looking at where the census is taking us and then determine what you need to do now to start recruiting those people in if you have a very homogenous or very kind of like standard set of people in your organization. If it's all this, if it's all that, or it's all this. Show your people, make sure that they're available. Put your team's photos on the website. You can look at lullabot.com, we have lots of photos. We're including bios and other info. We have lots of fun facts. I have 3 cats, they're Bourbon and Kona and Howl on Instagram. What state they live in, we share that information. And showcase team members on your careers page. This is something we haven't done yet, but also plan to do so. And we'd like to do videos and stories about cool things our team is exploring or doing, hobbies. It doesn't have to be just what Lullabot is. Also, employee testimonials can be impactful. So, circulating your job listings, this is tip 2. So Does anyone here have the responsibility for sharing job listings beyond the original, like HR? Yeah, so I encourage your whole process, consider where you're currently sharing those, and then think about what you can do otherwise. Sorry, can you, I don't know how to get. Okay, so yeah, why it's I needed to get to the actual. Okay, talent exists beyond your traditional channels. You can increase the number of candidates. I was hired to Lullabot from diversifytech.co. I saw a tweet from Matt Westgate, who was our president or founder at the time. He said he was looking for a technical project manager, and I thought, I might be able to do that. And then I saw it reiterated in Benny Kunch's diversifytech.co newsletter, and so I thought, maybe that's a place. And when people see themselves reflected at the organization, they're more likely to apply. I'd encourage you to think beyond the traditional job board. So we have had examples. We have had luck at diversifytech.co, women in product, vets in tech, LGBTQ in tech. And if you're job searching, the Slack boards of these organizations oftentimes have the most up-to-date job postings. So I have found that not everything is a formal job listing with a formal, page. Sometimes people are finding out about information from the internal networks, from the connections we make here. So identify, audit where you're currently speaking, and consider adding one or more of each of those others. Even if your culture is inclusive, there will be a disconnect if your brand doesn't showcase that. Many job listings are written with certain demographics in mind, and that can be unconscious or subconscious. On our Lullabot blog, we've talked about rock stars and ninjas, like the idea that when you put that onto a website, it can sometimes turn people who don't consider themselves to be a rock star, don't consider themselves to be a ninja to work. So we understand that the employer might be looking for a certain type of candidate, but we run our job descriptions through our inclusion and equity working group and through various tone and language tests where you can then fine-tune your job description to be more inclusive. We also publish articles about our inclusion equity working group and our mental health initiatives, and we've created a Belonging at Lullabot page as a statement to make it clear that we are fully committed to DEI. Does your organization have a referral policy? Like if you bring somebody and they get hired, you get a bonus or a fee? So yeah, I'm very mixed on this. I think that let's say you have the first 10 people who say, oh, this is a good culture fit because we all went to the same school and we all feel comfortable with each other, and then you give them a referral to bring other people on, and each of them brings somebody on. Then now you have, 40 people or whatever who all feel like, yeah, this is really comfortable and I feel like this is a good culture fit. And then if somebody is outside of that, they'll never be able to penetrate in. And then your organization will also be like, this candidate, they're not quite a good fit for us, the culture fit. I just can't explain why. So you need to be able to explain what your values are. Oh, sorry. Okay. Inclusion in action tip 3, create opt-in spaces for expression, connection. So our organization, we want to foster collaboration and a spirit of openness. This is some of our explicit values on our website. We have something called serendipity. So oftentimes what we found is people only socialize or connect with the people in their own level. So we have serendipity, which allows people in management, people on the design team, the development team, the PM team, and HR, marketing, to be able to serendipitously connect with each other. And what you're trying to do is foster a way for people to break through some of their silos. Also, we want to allow smaller groups to be an anchor within your larger organization. It might be the CATS channel. It might be, a small group discussion. And also remember, these are all opt-in. So we have Slack channels. We have like a Being Human where we talk about personal lives or just event. We have one called Have Fun where we answer fun, random questions. We have cats, as I mentioned, health, just music, sports balls, and reality shows. And people are very interested in very different things. Allow them the opportunity to do that. We have our Friday serendipity call, randomized breakout rooms to chat in a more intimate space. You won't feel like emboldened to really call somebody out or work with them in a deep level if you don't know anything about them. We also encourage employee-directed working groups. These have popped up over the years at Lullaby. They've included our mental health working group, inclusion, equity, government work, security issues. So these are created by our employee owners and open to anyone who's interested to join. Okay, being explicit in communications. We 100% want to make any implicit assumptions explicit. So, for example, are there social gatherings at your organization that where the real business gets done, but you are not aware of it, or not everybody is aware of that because it wasn't explicitly shared? We want to make sure that it's easier for everyone to opt in to the desired behavior by explicitly saying what is that behavior. For example, we have a whole Google document about what it's okay to do at the organization. So examine your current onboarding, and this will surface any gaps or missing information, like are you assuming that they're supposed to submit themselves to any of the Slack groups? If not, add a step to allow people to do that. Solicit feedback from your team too. We do have, as mentioned, a document of cultural norms. What are the norms at your organization? Is it okay to take a walk during lunch? It's okay to do your appointments in the middle of the day and come back. It's okay for you to do any number of items. Make that explicit so that anybody who's coming on board knows. Ellie did this for us at DrupalCon. Like, what are you supposed to do? Where can you stay? What are you encouraged to wear? I didn't even know what the dress code was when I came to DrupalCon for the first time last year. I had to ask. So coming to a new culture can be overwhelming, so you have to have those cultural norms explicitly documented. And that gives new hires a peace of mind about how things operate in their culture. Okay, also, put your mission, vision, and values explicit on your website. If you don't do it, somebody else has already done it or will do it. So I would encourage you, if you don't explicitly have it, to put those statements up. And if you're not aware, or if somebody needs prompting, have them look at the Glassdoor, like reviews of your organization, because people are willing to say stuff after they've left, or the Quora or the Reddit results for your company. I've Googled the truth about working at, and then the name of the company, and you can see what people are saying if you're not saying it. We have our belonging at Lullaby, our core values, and our engineering values listed. Okay, so cultivating DEI leaders from within. So we have consistent and growing support for DEI leaders within our organization, and we believe that that's essential to our continued effectiveness. And why is this important? It's because compassion and understanding from our leaders sets the tone for the entire work culture. There are many voices, determine who is currently being heard and who is not in the room when policies, procedures, or decisions are being made. Also consider who will lead the next generation at your organization. We offer annual DEI training to all of employees. We do this every year. There's a checklist, and when you go through, we have unconscious bias training, among other things, and this leads to more awareness.
We also invest in DEI workshops. At one of our annual team retreats, we actually had a facilitator come and put us through exercises about diversity, which was very eye-opening and insightful for a lot of us. And then I know there's been some training with, is it the Brene Brown training that some of our employees have been taking, but all of these things that we're investing in to help grow our knowledge of DEI and hopefully, obviously cultivate DEI leaders within our team. And also, this last point is let employees take the lead. You can't cultivate leaders unless you give them the space to lead. So when there are issues that anyone in the team is passionate about, or there are gaps that they see in our DEI efforts. Proposing ideas or starting working groups is encouraged. Like Nikki has already mentioned, we do have an inclusion and equity working group. We also have a mental health working group. Both of these groups are employee driven. They've been started by employees and they are run by employees, and they do make change within the company. All right, so where are we on number? Yep. Okay, so another thing to do is invest in personal and professional development. This is very important. There are a lot of companies that do this, but in my experience, it hasn't always been done in an equitable fashion. Every single employee should have the same access to personal and professional growth. So this is important because it helps to cultivate your team's unique talents, which ultimately benefits your organization as well as the employee. It also boosts their confidence and helps empower them, and it gives each person the same opportunity to grow. So how can you do this? Some of the things that we do is that we provide each employee with an annual, we call it our E&E budget, which is events and education. Every employee gets, and I can tell you the amount because it's on our website, I think it's $2,750 annually that they can spend to go to conferences or sign up for classes, buy books, whatever they want to do. It's also important to note that this budget should not be just restricted to learning more about your particular role within a company. There are a lot of things that people want to learn more about in their growth and on their path. So for example, I know we've had a developer take classes on meditation and some other things. And I've even thought about for myself, like, do I want to learn more about UX design? Do I want to learn more about Drupal? I will not be a developer. I am not that smart. But I have thought about taking some courses outside of just marketing. So it should not be restricted. Another thing to do is if you give your employees a budget, give them the time to actually use it. We all have, PTO, but at Lullabout we have something called ETO, which is education time off. So if you have your budget and you want to go to a conference, you can actually have days that do not take away from your vacation time to go to that conference. And the other thing is also encourage employees to use those budgets. Not everybody uses them. Sometimes people just get stuck and they don't really think about, maybe they don't have an idea of like what they want to pursue or what they're interested in for a particular year. So just having check-ins, maybe it's at the annual review or regular check-ins, but help employees kind of find their way and take advantage of that benefit. Support mental health. Mental health, sadly, has been long neglected in the workplace. We all know that burnout, stress, depression, anxiety, and other mental health disorders, they impact all of us, whether we're the ones going through it ourselves or people on our team are going through it. We are all impacted. And personally, I think employers are the exact folks who should be helping employees with their mental health. If you think about how much time we spend in the workplace, my God, I mean, it should be definitely a priority. It's interesting because in a Forbes article, there was a stat that said 40% of workers report that their job is very or extremely stressful. So that's a large percentage. Most people are stressed at work. And there's also another stat from the World Health Organization that says lost productivity resulting from depression and anxiety is estimated to cost the global economy $1 trillion each year. So that is significant. So how can you support mental health in your organization? For starters, you can respect autonomy. We all work differently. Some of us, we are more productive in the morning, some late at night. Some of us are juggling childcare or elder care or other things like within our lives. So giving people the space and the flexibility to be able to take care of the things they need to take care of and also do their jobs is really important and helps reduce a lot of the stress. Also investing in programs for employees to improve their mental health. So there are a lot of programs out there. We actually did a 30-day mental health challenge at Lullabout, which was great. The people who participated in that, some of them are actually probably here. But I think that was actually a pretty successful program. We got really good feedback on that. So that's one example. The other thing is to make sure that every member of your team has access to resources on mental health, whether you get them through your benefits provider or whoever, but make sure they have resources to find the information they need. Not everybody is just going to come up and ask, like, hey, I have depression, I need to know some information. So just make that stuff available to people. And then, like we mentioned too, we have a mental health working group. They have been sending out newsletters with a lot of valuable articles, links to podcasts, and other resources that they share with the team, which is really helpful. All right, practice transparency. I think it goes without saying that transparency is essential to an inclusive and equitable organization, but what does that actually mean and how do you apply it? You make pay ranges public. This should be done for all positions, including in job descriptions. So when I say for all positions, it should be done for every position within your organization and made public to the people within your organization. So everybody has an idea of like what those pay ranges are. Indeed actually showed that study by Indeed showed that 56% of applicants were more likely to apply to a company that they were not familiar with if the pay range was actually included in the job description. So you are expanding also the number of candidates that you might not actually reach if you did not divulge that information. Also share your financial information, sharing financial information with your team. We practice open book management, which allows all of our employees, each one of us, to understand the current revenue, expenditures, and KPIs of the company. And this has become especially important as an ESOP because we are all now employee owners. Also be transparent about how company decisions are made. Whenever there are decisions made or processes put in place, it's always important to explain how those decisions were made, why they were made, or why those processes were put into place so that everybody is aligned on the reasons and there's just no reason or no room for speculation. This also helps to really build trust within your organization. All right, number 9 is promote psychological safety. How do you make people feel safe? Or how do you make them know that they're in a safe space? So there are 4 pillars of psychological safety: feeling included, safe to learn, safe to contribute, and safe to challenge the status quo. So in doing all of those without fear of being embarrassed, marginalized, or punished in some way. So this is important because as we all work through large, complex, tough challenges every day in our jobs, these things all benefit from the participation of all contributors. And if people don't feel safe to contribute or speak up, you're gonna lose out on a lot of great contributions. It also surfaces issues, and that means gaining a better understanding and better outcomes for all. So it's important to be okay with mistakes. You know, we are all human, we make mistakes. Nobody should be punished for making a mistake. Being empathetic when people do make mistakes. Also being able to say, I don't know. You know, I know we've all been in situations where we think that, you know, we're expected to know something that we really don't, or people just think, or we think we should know something that we don't. And we kind of can play it off sometimes, but really it's important to say you don't know, and it's okay not to know. And I think that the more people within an organization that are comfortable with doing that, it's showing everybody that, hey, this is a safe space, and it's okay not to know everything, and let's help each other. Also providing plenty of channels for feedback and communication. Whether that's feedback forms, having regular check-ins, office hours. We also do town halls every month where anyone can ask a question. Nothing is off limits. People ask questions. You can also you can ask them anonymously if you'd like. So that makes people feel safe to ask the questions that maybe they aren't comfortable doing with their name attached. And then I added a 4th one on this one because I think this is really important, is collaborating openly. is it's one of our core values, and it's something that really encourages open participation, and we practice this in practically everything that we do. And I think this is also very important in terms of making people feel safe, because anyone can jump in and collaborate when you're doing it openly. And it invites that participation, which is very important. All right. And number 10, know what you don't know. Speaking as Americans, we have viewpoints that differ from other countries and cultures. And so we're not going to have it all figured out. And we certainly don't at Lullabot, and that's okay. But it's important that you do these things. Be open to a growth mindset. If you're not open to growing and learning, you really have nowhere to go. Secondly, expand your knowledge. There are a lot of great resources out there. Read books and blogs, listen to podcasts and recordings, really educate yourself, because the more you know and understand, you will uncover uncover your biases. So you will uncover biases the more that you learn, also understanding your own history. You may not even realize the biases that you have. I'll have like a lot of unconscious biases. And even some of those, the exercises that I talked about, or we had the facilitator, the DEI facilitator come to one of our annual retreats, I think uncovered some of those. I mean, it did for me. I didn't realize some of the things that some of the biases I had that I didn't know I had. So in a nutshell, if we all take measurable steps daily, we have the power to change our communities and our own lives. And so there you go. I'm gonna turn back over to Nikki.
Okay, so who here knows or interacts with, it may be at your work or at home, anybody under the age of 20? Okay, so back to the US Census. In 2020, which was 3 years ago, the 17-year-olds and below of that era, there was no multiracial majority. So what does this mean? This means that the people that are entering into your workforce now, the people who are joining and looking at your job descriptions and deciding to join your company, none of them have an experience of there being a majority demographic. So that's something that I'd like you to reflect on. I'd like you to ask yourself, what, if anything, is your organization currently doing to make your work environment inclusive for all peoples? And it might be like Ellie said, we don't even know what we're doing, we need to start a plan, or we're doing some of what you've mentioned, we want to do more. If you are actively fostering a sense of belonging, and if you don't know, ask your team. If they say yes, continue what you are doing. If they say no, determine what is your next tangible step. It might be as easy as posting your job description salaries. That might be the easiest first step, as you make the case. If people say they don't know, break things down into your next steps. And these are all at lb.cm/beyondinclusion. And then in terms of action steps, we did want folks to brainstorm for your own organization what it is that you want to do. I want you to continue to involve your team. This might be an ad hoc group. We started our Inclusion Equity Working Group as a Slack channel, which then turned into a set of regular meetings. Our first step for the meetings was to just set a date on the calendar. Even set the date with folks that you know are interested in this and have an ad hoc discussion. Start with one thing. Don't overwhelm yourself with a laundry list of to-dos. Just do the first Mondays where you can sit, chat, have a beverage, and discuss what is currently working, what could be improved. Use your growth mindset. We do have some tips on our blog. I encourage you to just calendar yourself a monthly check-in to figure out, review, and identify what you would like to fine-tune at your organization. And thank you. Yeah, let me find the word cloud. So if you recall, we have to turn off the whole thing. We had asked what was the one word or phrase. That's not going to work. Hold this in. All right. Go ask questions. Questions, discussion.
Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Multiracial. So, in the United States, we've been predominantly white. The demographics of folks who are boomer age and of that generation have always primarily had a white male kind of like interface with the workplace. That's what a boss looks like. Today's youth, like my son who's 20, who graduated, has friends of all different backgrounds, and so they don't know what a boss looks like. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm definitely in a different mindset than, say, somebody young today, but their experience has been definitely experiencing different types of people, different types of background, culture, and so they don't think that there's a norm.
Go ahead.
Other questions, discussion? I mean, is it going to be hard at your organization? Like, are you hopeful? Do you feel scared? Is this something that, yeah, absolutely, we're going to do this? Like, it's kind of a question.
Actually, a question is more. But first, I wanted to, on the point of showing your people, I think it's worth noting that for large organizations, that's not always easy.
Absolutely.
To do that with anonymized demographic data, removing the first app and your 200 person agency.
Yep.
It's going to be impossible to get everybody's photo, and it's always going to be out of date. So there's other options available for that, and I think that's.
Yes, and I would highly one of my clients that I worked with priorly, they put in their executive leadership. And putting the executive leadership actually had a kind of reckoning for their leadership team, because they said, oh, this leadership, we need to expand the types of people who are coming.
When you push on there.
One other question is, and this is something that we do with the organization I work with. We have a diversity, equity, and inclusion team, and we pay them to be on that.
Excellent.
As part of their emotional labor. It's a lot of work. You put in that work, and thank you for doing it. Recognizing that. Is that something that y'all do, or would you be interested in doing?
Oh, this is, so the discussion was that the organization is paying folks for their participation in the diversity, equity, and inclusion working group, which is an amazing thing. I would highly recommend, if your group is meeting informally, consider if there is budget that you can give to them. Again, Lullaby is putting budget into the trainings, but that's definitely something, I think as a woman and as a mom, like, I'm very used to the idea of unpaid labor, and I hate to see it perpetuate at the workplace. So if there is any way that you can put those resources in, again, make the business case that anybody who leaves because they don't feel like they belong at your organization is taking their entire salary plus out the door. So you want to retain those folks. Give them a place where they can grow, where they can consider themselves retiring. And if you are in a situation where that doesn't feel like your organization, ask yourself, what are the 1, 2, or 3 things that you can do in the next quarter? Calendar yourself. Let's start working on that. Other people at your organization feel the same way.
I also, just to piggyback on that, I also think, like, with our company, especially, we're an ESOP, so everything about the company, what we do to build it, the value, the equity that we build, all impacts our stocks and our, what we get for retirement. So I think paying, I don't know, I think it would be a little, I don't know if I'm on board with, like, actually paying people to do that inclusion and equity, like the working group thing, because I think that we're doing it because we're so invested in, like, making the company a better place. But I don't know, I think maybe it depends on, like, your situation. I certainly wouldn't turn down the money if they decided to do it, but I think maybe it's probably better if for our situation. I don't know. Jared is here. He's on our leadership team. Jared, are you going to make that happen?
In a sense, you are paid. You have success time.
Just repeat.
6 up, we talk about that.
Success time. Well, but that also doesn't apply to everybody. That's success time. So Matthew Tift is talking about our client services team, the billable team. They work 30 hours a week. They're on billable work. And then they have 10 hours a week for success time. That means learning, spending time in other, doing other things like the inclusion equity working group. But that doesn't apply to everybody in the company, because, like, for myself, I'm not billable. So I don't have success time. All my 40 hours a week are my job. So yes, some people are, but not everybody.
So we're nearing the end of our time. Any questions? Anything that you can kind of in your mind commit to or ask your leadership team about within the next week if there's something you'd like to change. If you feel unhopeful about change, that's also its own indication at your organization. I encourage you to see some of the words of what folks are currently feeling. Need some work, disjointed, complicated. We see very early stages, a goal, getting there, improved. Some people say this is surface level. I think that's actually quite challenging. It's like, hey, we're diverse. Thank you, everybody, for your efforts. But then people don't feel like they can take the time to go to their therapist appointment. We see struggling, ongoing, invisible, accepting, disjointed. It's kind of all over the map for the folks in this room. So again, from Ellie and I's perspective, this is a starting point, and we encourage you to take your thoughts and start working with people in your company. Question, discussion.
How was collaborating openly fostered? How was tough conversations, holding people accountable? What did that look like?
So before Lullabot became an ESOP, how were our values like open collaboration and transparency and own it, how were they built in? I guess that's some question.
It's exactly the same. Nothing
older
changed
folks.
with that. That's been like that since the beginning, pretty much.
I think being
Is there more participation though now as an ESOP versus before? Do you see a change in that?
I don't think so.
And I can answer that a little bit.
David Burns.
Yeah, of the director of support maintenance, I've been with Lobot for 13 years. Lobot became an ESOP.
By the way, just as he's walking up here, just to let you know, the next session, our leadership team at Lullabot is actually doing one on the ESOP. So if you want to learn more about an ESOP, feel free to do that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so David Burns, Director of Support Maintenance with Lullabot for 13 years. We started as a shop that works with Drupal, right? So the odd concept is like we do open source. And that's kind of where the origination of Collaborate Openly is. And then when we got into more client services, building websites, we didn't just build a thing on our own and deliver it to a client. It became a very collaborative, open conversation, get their feedback, apply it to the site. And we kind of took what we've learned from that system, and when we became ESOP, or even before ESOP, it was like, how do we apply this to how we run our own organization internally? Yep.
Yeah, so I would definitely say we didn't have a change, and if anything, I would say people are more, it's easier to call somebody out because if they're not behaving in a way that's going to bring our share price up or make our lives better, it's going to get called out. Last question.
Can you speak more to what the employee-led groups do? I know
Totally.
you said they do like the newsletter and you said they kind of talk, but
Yeah.
what, like say if I was interested in building one of these employee-led groups.
Yep, I'll definitely speak from the perspective of the mental health working group. Folks are like, Matthew Tift, who was in the room, like, we need to talk about mental health at Lullabot. Let's talk internally. Here's a open meetings calendar, a legitimate, like, here's the appointment where anybody is invited. That open meetings calendar goes to our general announcements Slack. Anybody can come in. And they started building the agenda, building the decision making, and then that led to concrete change in terms of what type of programs the company invests in. Because, nobody in leadership is the expert on mental health, but they're bubbling up from the staff that we need these types of challenges. We had the challenge, we have an app to support mental health, we have the ongoing messaging. We started meditation. Like, there's so many things, and I think one of the ideas is that you want to unlock all of what your staff bring to the table because they have ideas, and if there's not a venue for that to be heard or evaluated or even floated, then it withers. And we work with each other. Sometimes we're spending more time with our colleagues and with our own families. We want to make our work a place where we want to be and grow and thrive. And I wish that for each and every one of you.
So we have 2 minutes left. You had a question. I saw your hand.
Question?
Yeah.
No, I was actually just gonna
Oh,
add something.
sorry. I was.
Yeah.
She's had her hand up for a while.
Oh, sorry, Geeta.
I just wanted to make a comment. I know that was anonymous, but I'm the one who said complicated because it is complicated in our organization. Two things I would like your feedback. One, we did start a Slack channel, but there is no participation. And how do you encourage employees to participate in difficult conversations?
Oh.
We had workshops that didn't go well.
Yeah, I hear you. I actually don't know don't have an answer for that. I want to continue the conversation. Please tweet us at Lullabot. And the main thing is, are you in North America? North America, he's huge taboo to talk, even to say, oh, you are like a black woman. Like people are like, oh, whoa. We need to start recognizing and identifying that each of us has our own background and we have a story, and to celebrate each other's stories. Like we all benefit. We all, like, I am an Asian, I'm an immigrant, I'm Filipina, I grew up speaking Tagalog, like I'm from North America, I became a citizen. Like these are all stories that I've shared with my team, and that's been enriching and wonderful for my team. And I encourage you to help build that conversation first of knowing people, because only if you know somebody can you get down into the weeds of, well, why do you feel a certain way? Or what do you think we can do to improve? We are being asked to wrap. Okay, one last question.
Well, I was just about to say that, obviously there's no denying the fact that this session is much more impactful and is needed throughout the whole
World, the Gay and Lesbian Association.
So, I mean, I guess, my thought is how do we really bring this to the leadership in the TA to hopefully continue this amazing session that we've had, so that at least, spread the word, be much more transparent about how we can be much more, I guess, kind and accountable to each other.
Okay, so everybody here, my email is monicadear, DEAR, @gmail.com. I am on the board. I just got elected. I will bring this to the leadership team. We definitely want to continue these conversations and make Drupal a place where everybody belongs. And I'm so grateful and thankful to work with each of every one of you to make Drupal the place where we want to be.
Yeah,
Thanks
and
so much.
you can find us on the website and reach out. Tweet us at Lullabot or just find our email. You can contact us.
Thank you.